Welcome to the Wisdom That Breathes channel. Across all our platforms, we try to share wisdom which is relevant and accessible to everyone. But on this particular platform, we go deeper into some of the ancient principles found within the scriptures. If you find some of the terminology difficult or inaccessible, then go over to our Keshava Swami YouTube channel where you'll be able to find other content which is perhaps more relatable. Thank you and enjoy the wisdom that breathes. Hare Krishna, everyone. Yeah, so happy to be back in Cambridge and Cambourne, and see how everything is growing, how everything is developing. I'm just trying to think. The first time I came to Cambridge, we used to come for the university programs years ago when Ananda Chaitanya was a university student. And that must have been nearly 20 years ago, and to see how much has happened since then, and how many of you continue to serve for so many years, and how many of you have come and are doing so much. It's really wonderful. So today we thought we could speak a little bit about service and how to be contributors in this very, very wonderful movement which is spreading love around the world. We live in a world where there needs more love, isn't it? When you say there's so much aggression in the world today, there's so much animosity. We just turn on the news and we see all these things happening around the world. People are so intolerant. People are so ignorant, unfortunately. And therefore, every spiritual person is a blessing to the world. I'll tell you one fact, which is perhaps a useless fact for you, but anyway. If you take a candle and you go into outer space, it's said that you can actually see a candle 12 miles away. Because outer space is so dark, it's so densely dark, that even a candle shines that bright that you can see it 12 miles away. And so every Vaishnav, you may kind of look at yourself and think, not so impressive, don't have so many skills, not so charismatic, not such a big mover and shaker in the world. But actually every Vaishnav is like a candle, every devotee, every spiritual person. Because what they're actually giving to the world by their consciousness, by their character, by their service, you may or may not realize it, but you're having actually an incredible impact on people around you in the world without even knowing it. There used to be one Mataji from the Manor, and I remember being, when I was a kid, I used to be, my room overlooked the main street. So I would sit at my window and I would always see her walking with a bead bag. And I was like, she's had that sling on for years. I thought she had like a twisted arm or something. Like every day she'd walk with like this thing. And I'd see her for years, like just walking and chanting. I never had an idea it was a bead bag or whatever. I just used to see her walking and chanting. And years later, obviously I'm trying to become a devotee, and then I saw her years later and I said, I think I was just purified by seeing you. Every day I'd see a Vaishnavi, and I think I didn't know what it was, but I told her, I think just by seeing you every day I got purified. Narottam Das Thakur, he says that Darshana Pavitra E Tomar Gun, that the quality of a Vaishnav is that even if you don't speak to them, Darshana Pavitra, just by seeing them, you become purified. You just, very, very powerful influence. So the Vaishnavas, all of you are very, very powerful, and the real hope for the world that we're living in today. And Srila Prabhupada, he was a candle that was burning especially bright. Because Srila Prabhupada, he wasn't actually of this world. Srila Prabhupada, once he said to Bhavananda Prabhu, he said, never was there a time when I forgot Krishna. I always knew of Krishna. Prabhupada was doing Rath Yatras when he was a kid. So Srila Prabhupada was very, very special, and therefore Srila Prabhupada was able to specially spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And Srila Prabhupada's whole life was dedicated to service. You see, at the end of life, what will count ultimately is how much service we've done, how much we served others, how much we served our spiritual teachers, how much we served Krishna. That's really what will make our life meaningful. That's what we will carry with us. And Srila Prabhupada, he filled his whole life with service. Prabhupada said once, I asked my spiritual master many questions. And then he said, actually, I asked him only one question. Because every question I asked him, behind it was this one question. And that one question was, how can I serve you? And so Srila Prabhupada was looking for more and more opportunities to serve. Once Prabhupada came to a press conference in America, and an Indian reporter put his hand up and he said, Swamiji, why have you come to America? As if he was an American citizen himself. So he said, Swamiji, why have you come to America? So Prabhupada looked back at the Indian reporter and said, why have you come to America? And the reporter, he looked at Prabhupada and he said, better opportunities. Prabhupada said, me too. But you came for better opportunities to earn, which is okay. But I came for better opportunities to serve, to give, to contribute. And so Srila Prabhupada was traveling and serving in an incredible way. So today I thought we could read a little bit about Srila Prabhupada in the early days. Would you like to read about Prabhupada in the early days? This is Srila Prabhupada. You have to just imagine for a moment the saffron-robed monk from Calcutta lands in the Lower East Side of New York. People were looking at him like, which planet did you arrive from? It was very strange for them, strange for Srila Prabhupada. But Srila Prabhupada came there and he met all these people and he began spreading Krishna consciousness. So I'm reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit. This chapter is entitled Beyond the Lower East Side. So the Lower East Side is nothing like Cambridge. Someone can tell me what the Lower East Side is like. I came from Wembley. Maybe that's a bit more similar to the Lower East Side. Not a very nice place at all. The Lower East Side was known as Skid Row. In American culture, Skid Row means the place where everyone who didn't make it in society materially ends up. The people who are homeless, the people who are intoxicated and addicted, the people who are really down and out in terms of their material life, they end up in the Skid Row. And this is where Srila Prabhupada went. You have to imagine for a moment, Srila Prabhupada was living in Radha Damodar Temple, Vrindavan. Radha Damodar Temple, Vrindavan, that area is known as Seva Kunj. It's known as Seva Kunj because that's the place where Krishna comes to render seva to Srimati Radharani. Krishna, who's so great, becomes overcome by Radharani's love and he bows down to Srimati Radharani and begs her for forgiveness. So Seva Kunj is the most confidential place in the entire universe where Krishna and Srimati Radharani are performing their most confidential pastimes. Srila Prabhupada was living there. There in Seva Kunj, it said that at a certain time in the day, the gates to Seva Kunj get locked. because anyone who enters Seva Kunj after a certain time in the day, Vrindavan folklore tells us, they go mad. Because nobody can behold the Nitya Leela of Krishna. And so even to this day, they lock the gates to Seva Kunj at a certain time, because there Krishna is still, to this very day, performing his pastimes. So Srila Prabhupada was living there. It's said that Radha Damodar temple is the hub of the wheel of the entire spiritual world. It's the center of everything. And from there, Srila Prabhupada came to the lower east side of New York, which is like the hub of the wheel of the material world. Srila Prabhupada transported himself into this place. And there in the lower east side, Srila Prabhupada began the first temple. And the first temple was called Matchless Gifts. Prabhupada rented that storefront, and somehow it was some kind of storefront which was selling some kind of jewelry items or something. And so that storefront had the name Matchless Gifts. So when, with the help of Mukunda Maharaj, Prabhupada began to rent that place, then he said, no, you can keep the sign as it is, because Krishna consciousness is a matchless gift. And so there in 26 2nd Avenue, how many of you have been to 26 2nd Avenue? Oh my God, only 3 of you. You have to take everyone in Cambridge to 26 2nd Avenue. Yeah, it's a very, it's kind of like, not too much bigger than this room. And in this storefront, Srila Prabhupada started teaching Krishna consciousness. It's amazing. All kinds of people were turning up, mostly just for the prasadam. But Srila Prabhupada came, and you can see videos of 26 2nd Avenue, and you can see in what kind of situation Srila Prabhupada began spreading Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna was becoming popular. Regular kirtans in the park, newspaper coverage. Hayagriva called it the Hare Krishna explosion. The Lower East Side hippies considered the chanting of Hare Krishna one of the grooviest things happening. And that the Swami's disciples didn't take LSD didn't seem to affect their popularity. The devotees were accepted as angelic people, carrying the peaceful chanting to others and offering free food and a free place to stay. You could get the most interesting vegetarian food free at their place if you went at the right time. And in their storefront, on the shelf by the door, were books from India. So Prabhupada set up this kind of temple in New York, and it was just like fascinating. It's very interesting. At this time in America, everyone was looking east. Everyone was looking for answers. At that time, everyone was questioning life. At that time, everyone was rebelling against the status quo. At that time, the narrative was, let's do away with the traditional life. Let's actually understand what the deeper meaning of life is. And so everyone was looking east. It's very interesting. Srila Prabhupada came on the Jaladuta, isn't it? You know what happens when a ship comes, or even when a plane comes to its destination, then what happens? They clean it up, they refill it, and then they turn it around, and then it goes back to where it came from. So when the Jaladuta arrived, Prabhupada walked off the ship. Prabhupada said, when I walked off the Jaladuta, I didn't know whether to turn left or right. Prabhupada chose a direction and he walked. The interesting thing is, after about 6 days, the Jaladuta turned around, headed back for India. And 2 boys decided to board that very same Jaladuta to go to India, because in India they wanted to find a guru. It was like, oh my God, you should have been here 6 days ago. Can you imagine? Prabhupada comes off the ship to teach in America about Krishna consciousness. 6 days later, 2 boys get onto the very same Jaladuta to go to India to find a guru. Anyway, they go to India. They travel around for a year. They meet many yogis, many sadhus, many gurus, but no one that touches their heart. They come back to America. A few days after they come back to America, they're walking down the Lower East Side, and lo and behold, they see a man in saffron robes. They're thinking, we're not in LSD, but this looks like a hallucination. We were in India 1 week ago. What's this guy doing here? So they come face to face with Prabhupada. They look at Prabhupada. Prabhupada looks at them. They look at Srila Prabhupada and say, are you from India? Prabhupada said, yes. Prabhupada looks at them and said, are you from India? They're like, no, we're not from India, but we've just been to India. Prabhupada said, you just been to India? Why? They said, we were looking for a guru. Prabhupada said, oh? Then you should come in the evening. To Matchless Gifts, we are having classes on the Bhagavad Gita. So those 2 boys, their names were Howard and Keith. And those 2 boys, they came to 26 2nd Avenue, and eventually those 2 boys became Hayagriva and Kirtanananda. Brahmande Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beej. The soul is wandering in this world. The soul has no idea, who am I, where am I, what am I for? But if they become Bhagyavan, very, very fortunate, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beej, they will meet a guru. They will get Krishna's mercy. And like this, they will receive the seed of devotion. And so Prabhupada arrives here in 26 2nd Avenue, and all these people start coming to him. Later on, Srila Prabhupada actually said, all of you were sent by my spiritual master to help me. It's a very significant statement. It means anyone who comes to this movement, in one sense, there's a special blessing there that they've come to assist in spreading this Krishna consciousness. So the devotees, they were just being seen as angelic. No drugs, no intoxication, but so happy. People couldn't understand it. One time Srila Prabhupada was in 26 2nd Avenue, and one of the hippies put his hand up and said, Swamiji, what is the spiritual world like? So Prabhupada could have answered, Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha lakshavratesha surabhira vipalayantam lakshmi sahasra sata sambrahma sevyama. He could have said so many things. There's desire trees, cows that give whatever you want, Lakshmis. He could have said so many things. The hippie said, what is the spiritual world like? Prabhupada looked back at him and said, the spiritual world is like an ocean of LSD. He was like, whoa, that sounds good. Prabhupada said it's like an ocean of LSD. So we don't need LSD. Ocean of LSD. Stay high forever. In the clubs, local musicians played the melody that they had picked up from the Swami when he chanted in the park and at the temple. See, that melody, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That melody
is transcendental. Because Prabhupada came to America and he chanted in that melody. And that melody continues to resonate and reverberate around the whole universe. It's amazing, whenever you meet anyone who doesn't know much about Hare Krishna and they start singing Hare Krishna, they always sing in that melody, isn't it? That melody is like, somehow it's just empowered. Such an incredible vibration, because it came from the lips of a pure devotee, and therefore it continues to affect people even today. The Lower East Side was a neighborhood of artists and musicians, and now it was also the neighborhood of Hare Krishna. Burton Green, he's like a musician, he's speaking now. Musicians were influenced by the Krishna chant, Govinda Jaya Jaya, and other chants. I used some of those chants when I recorded. A lot of musicians reached out for this in different ways. We would explode in a short time and blow off, but then keep the chant underneath as a basis. A lot of people found that spiritual vibration even in the midst of the heavy music they were doing. They were becoming devotee musicians. Evening kirtans were always big. Brahmananda used to stand by the door every night and watch the room fill up until there was no place left to sit. There was a lot of interest in the group, chanting and music making, but after the kirtan, when the talk was to begin, people would start to leave. It was not uncommon for half the audience to leave before the talk began, and sometimes people would leave in the middle of the lecture. So Srila Prabhupada is very interesting. Although he knew that they didn't have so much attention span, although he knew that many of them were not interested in sitting and listening to philosophy, still Srila Prabhupada would lecture. He would lecture, his lectures would be serious. His lectures would be straight from Shastra. His lectures would include quoting Sanskrit verses. And in one sense, these people knew nothing. But Srila Prabhupada, he lectured because he understood that yes, the chanting will move their heart, will transform their heart, but also they need to understand the philosophy. An ancient verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us, Siddhanta boliye chite na kara alash, iha hoite Krishna lage sudrida manash. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says, Siddhanta boliye chite, when it comes to understanding philosophy, na kara alash, don't be lazy. Iha hoite, because by doing this, Krishna lage, you will remember Krishna, sudrida manash, and your mind will become very, very strong. See, many of us, we have so many emotions, we have so many ups and downs, we have so many things we navigate in our life. But when you have strong intelligence that comes from understanding philosophy, then it means in your life you can be so much more steady. And so Srila Prabhupada, he lectured, even though it's very difficult nowadays for people to sit and to listen and to hear philosophy. But Srila Prabhupada did it. Let me just forward a little bit. It was 11 p.m. and only one light was on in Swamiji's apartment in the kitchenette. Swamiji was staying up, teaching Kirtanananda and Brahmananda how to cook, because the next day, Sunday, they would be holding a feast for the public. Kirtanananda had suggested it be advertised as a love feast, and Swamiji had adopted the name Although some thought it sounded strange at first to hear him say, "Love feast." The devotees had put up posters around the neighborhood and had made a sign for the window of the storefront, and Swamiji had said he would cook enough for at least 50 people. He said the love feast should become an important part of ISKCON, as he had explained many times. Food offered to Krishna becomes spiritual, and whoever eats the prasadam receives great spiritual benefit. Prasadam means mercy. So this is very beautiful. What Srila Prabhupada did from day one is he began using everyone's talents. Some could cook, some could sing, some were artists, some knew how to write, some were managers. And what he did with each one of them was that he gave them a responsibility. And here he told Kirtanananda and Brahmananda that I'll teach you how to cook. Prabhupada was expert in so many things, but he was also expert in cooking. If you go to Vrindavan today and you go to Srila Prabhupada's house, then you can see there Srila Prabhupada had like a 3-tier cooker. And Prabhupada said, cooking is a half an hour job. In half an hour you should be able to cook sabji, dal, rice. And so Srila Prabhupada was an expert cook. Srila Prabhupada said he also liked to honor prasadam. Prabhupada, when he was a child, he was known as Kachori Mukha because he could eat unlimited numbers of kachoris. And Prabhupada once said to one of his disciples, there's 2 things in life that you should never be shy about. Number 1, business. And number 2, prasadam. When it comes to these 2 things, don't be shy. So Prabhupada, he trained the devotees in how to cook, in how to serve. And Srila Prabhupada did it all by example. Satsvarup Maharaj, he says that he used to come to 26 Second Avenue. He was the only one in the temple who had a job. Everyone else was a hippie. So he would go to the welfare office where he would do his job, and then every afternoon he would come to the storefront for prasadam because Swamiji was cooking for everyone. So he said, one day I was getting late and I knew I was going to miss prasadam. So, how can you miss prasadam? Swamiji's cooking. So he said to himself, I have to call someone to save me prasadam. But he thought, all of these hippies, I can't trust any of them. They're too spaced out. If I tell them to save me prasadam, they'll probably forget. So after racking his brains, who should I ask, he realized there's only one person I can ask. Swamiji. And so he sent a message to Srila Prabhupada saying, I'm going to be late, can you save me prasadam? So he said that day he came a couple of hours late to the storefront. He walked into the storefront and he said Prabhupada was waiting for me. And Prabhupada said, sit down. So he said, I sat down. And he said, Prabhupada brought a plate. And he said, Prabhupada warmed the prasadam and he brought it to me and he served me with his own hand. And then Prabhupada sat there while I took the prasadam. And he said, I was so touched by his service. I was so touched by his love and concern. He said, after I finished that prasadam, it was the first day I went to Swamiji and I said to Swami, can I also help? Is there something I can do to help? And Prabhupada said, oh, you would like to help? Yes, of course, you can help. So this is love. That when we look at our life, we see how much the devotees did for us, how much the devotees made a sacrifice, how much they went out of their way to bring Krishna consciousness and make it a living reality in my journey of my life. And if we're actually remembering that, then that the very next moment we'll ask ourselves the question, what am I doing to reciprocate? What am I doing to show my gratitude, my appreciation? And the way we show our gratitude and appreciation is by trying to render some service back. So this is how a movement goes on. Someone makes a great sacrifice and touches people's hearts. And when those individuals, their heart is touched, then they look at their own life and they think, I should also serve. I should also make a sacrifice. And then they make a sacrifice. And then people who are on the receiving end of their service, they become touched. And they think, my God, they made a sacrifice. I should also make a sacrifice. And like this, a movement goes on, it perpetuates, it expands. And so this is the opportunity that each one of us have to say, what can I do to serve? Each one of us can take a small part, or a big part, of Srila Prabhupada's movement and say, I'm going to take responsibility for this. Some of you may say, I'll take responsibility to make sure Krishna consciousness spreads in Cambridge. Some of you may say, I'll take a responsibility to make sure that this program in Cambridge happens every single week. Some of you may say, I'll take the responsibility to make sure there's prasadam at every single program, the best prasadam. Whatever it may be, in this movement, nobody's big, even if you're 6'5". In this movement, nobody's big, because Krishna can do everything by the, flick of an eyebrow. And in this movement, nobody's small. Because whatever you do, Krishna is touched. Krishna is attracted. If you do it with commitment, if you do it with devotion, if you do it with attention, Krishna is touched. And so each one of us have the opportunity to take responsibility for some part of Prabhupada's mission. I feel really fortunate to have grown up at the manor and kind of, been able to live in the building for over 2 decades and just witness devotees who gave their life in service. Like we had at the manor Mother Kalangana. And Mother Kalangana, she just made the commitment that Sri Sri Radha Gokulananda should have the best sweets. And so every single day, I remember oftentimes I would be coming back from a program after midnight and she would be awake chanting. 1 o'clock in the morning. Many times we passed each other in the corridor. I was going to the sleeping bag, she was going for service. Because she had a vow that I'm not going to go into the kitchen and cook for Krishna until I've chanted 16 rounds. And so she would wake up very early, she would chant, and then she would make the best sweets for Krishna. She would hand paint each one of them. Apparently there's a story, maybe you're aware, but I heard that she also wanted to make this one special sweet called the Gokul sweet. It's a carob sweet. But she could never quite get the recipe right. So then one day she prayed to Radha Gokulananda that, please empower me to make this sweet in the best way for you. You have to reveal the knowledge to me. And she made a prayer that if it works out, Krishna, I promise I will never have one of these sweets myself. And eventually, this sweet, if you've ever had it, it's amazing. So she just made that resolution that I'm just going to make sure Krishna has the best sweets. And she dedicated her life to that. At the manor, we have Priyojana Prabhu now, who's unfortunately not so well, but still in good spirits. And he made the resolution that it's my commitment, my responsibility, that the toilets at Bhaktivedanta Manor should be spotless. And so he made that commitment, that I'm going to make sure that Krishna's toilets are the cleanest toilets. And so if he ever trained you in how to clean the toilets, it was like, my God, it was a complicated procedure, you know, because it was serious business. This is Krishna's service. Then we had Shuddhidhamma Prabhu, and he made the resolution that I'm going to give my life to developing Bhaktivedanta Manor. And that's what he did, day in, day out. First one into the building, last one to leave at night. And he took on all the anxiety, all the responsibility, all the complexity that comes with managing. It's not easy to be a temple president. Once I told Shuddhidhamma Prabhu, I said, Shuddhi Prabhu, Prabhupada said, in the spiritual world we'll have ISKCON again. He said, great, I hope I'm not the temple president there. I said, maybe not. So sometimes when you take on service, there's anxiety. Sometimes there'll be criticism. Sometimes you'll feel like it's all me by myself. Where is everyone? Where's the help? There's no help. It's hard sometimes. But the devotee knows it's for Krishna. It's out of love. I carry on. Wasn't easy for Prabhupada. Prabhupada was also alone. All alone. Struggling alone. Krishna's pure devotee. No one to help. But he carried on. So like this, so many devotees who dedicated their life to service. In Vrindavan, there was one devotee, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. So he would cook all the offerings for Krishna, Balaram, Radhesham. He was an incredible cook. So then what happened at one point in his life, he became very sick, so he couldn't cook anymore. So he came to the temple president and he said, but my life, I have to serve. I have to do something. So you know what service he took up? In Krishna Balaram temple, he took up the service of serving all the guests Charanamrit. And so that's what he would do all day. People would come and he would just serve them Charanamrit. And if you saw the way he served Charanamrit, he served with such love. Because no service is small. Every service is significant. It's for Krishna. So I'm just sharing this with all of you, that our movement was built on Srila Prabhupada's service attitude. Our movement was built on the service attitude of all of Srila Prabhupada's followers, who took up the responsibility that we should help Srila Prabhupada in his mission. And our movement will continue to expand if each one of us take responsibility and commitment in devotional service. And to be honest, we're the beneficiaries. When I was 21, I graduated from university, so I wanted to join the temple, but you can understand there were complexities involved in that. So I was on the kind of, on the edge. Should I do it? Should I not? Should I join the temple? Should I not? So at one point, 15 devotees got me into a room. It's like, and they were all trying to convince me, yes, you should do it, you should do it, you should join the temple. So in my heart there was some pride, like, oh, clearly they've seen I'm someone special. Clearly they understand I am, I'm going to be a big contributor. So I had some pride in my heart. Anyway, so everyone was leaving the room, and Shuddhidhamma Prabhu, he stayed and he said, wait here. Everyone left the room. And Sri Dharma Prabhu, he sat me down. And he said, I want to tell you something. I said, yes, please tell me. What he told me next humbled me like anything, and at the same time inspired me like anything. He said, sit down. I sat down. And he looked at me and he said, look, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is going to spread all over the world, whether you join or not. And then he looked at me and he said, but do you want to be part of the adventure? And I looked at him, I said, sign me up. It humbled me because I realized Krishna doesn't need me. If I don't do it, someone else will do it. If I don't show up, someone else will get the credit and get the benefit. It's not dependent on me. But at the same time, we all have the opportunity to say, I was part of it. I was a contributor. I was a participant in the transcendental drama. Because Lord Chaitanya's pastimes are going on even today. The Krishna consciousness movement is the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have an opportunity to be part of it. But it means we got to take a responsibility. We got to make a commitment. You see, Srila Prabhupada, he didn't wait for someone else to do it. He said, it needs to be done. I'll try and do it. So if all of us are in that very progressive mood, if all of us are in that progressive consciousness, then more and more miracles can happen. And so here I was just speaking with Sarveshwaram Prema Rasika. So many opportunities are opening up in Cambridge to spread Krishna consciousness. The potentiality of buildings, so many devotees coming, the student program increasing, kirtan programs. You have so many other smaller groups in the locality which are coming up. Such a wonderful opportunity to be part of something wonderful. So please, let's all try and give our hearts and minds in service. Let's remember Srila Prabhupada, who never rested for a moment. Let's remember all of Srila Prabhupada's disciples who underwent incredible risks to spread Krishna consciousness. Let's remember all the devotees today. As we speak, there are devotees who are in jail because they stood up to defend the rights of the devotees to worship Krishna. Let's remember all these sacrifices and then let's say, what am I going to do? What am I going to do to show that I appreciate, that I'm grateful? And what am I going to do so that I can be part of that transcendental drama? That's the opportunity all of us have. So thank you for all you're doing, that you continue to do. You all have busy lives. You have so many things you're balancing, your family, your career, your various responsibilities. But still you make time for Krishna, still you make time to serve. It's truly incredible. I couldn't do it, therefore I took sannyas. I'm not good at balancing. So I ejected myself. I took the easy way out. But all of you have embraced so many responsibilities and still you're doing so much. It's really exemplary. And the more and more you can fill your life with service, you'll then look back at your life and you'll feel satisfied. Yes, I could do something for Krishna. You'll feel happy in your heart. yes, I spent my time wisely. So let us fill our lives with devotional service, and in this way Srila Prabhupada will surely smile on us, and our life will become glorious in all ways. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So thank you so much for your attention. I don't know if anyone has any questions or any comments, or if you would like to. Yes.
Just a small reflection. Sometimes I think, like, why is it that Srila Prabhupada's a pure devotee? Why is it that Krishna didn't give everything to him? You know, why did Krishna not give him Lakshmi, support, brahmacharis? Sometimes I reflect about that, and when you were reading I was thinking, it seems that it teaches us that the devotee is someone that even when they don't have anything, they still find a way to serve Krishna. Because if Srila Prabhupada did have everything, then we'd always use that as an excuse, and we'd say, oh, he could do it because
He had all the facilities, yeah.
But like hearing that story that you were saying about Svayam Maharaj coming late, Srila Prabhupada personally serving, it shows like...
Yeah. And we feel like that sometimes in life, no? Like, I've done so much service, nobody appreciates. I've done so much service, but nobody says thank you. And then we feel like, I don't know, do I want to carry on serving? But just see Srila Prabhupada, he had no expectation. I'm here to serve. I'm not here to try to take anything from anyone. It's my fortune if I'm able to serve. It's the glory of my life if I'm able to give something. It doesn't matter how people respond to that. So yes, Srila Prabhupada's life clearly was engineered by Krishna in such a way that we can have no more excuses. Because if you say, yes, I'd like to do Krishna consciousness, but I'm old. Well, I'm sorry, Prabhupada was 69. Yes, I'd like to do Krishna consciousness, but my health is not good. Sorry, Srila Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks while he came to India, while he came to America. Yes, I'd like to do Krishna consciousness, but there's no good association around me. Sorry, Prabhupada came to the Lower East Side. There was no association. Yes, I'd like to do Krishna consciousness, but I don't have the facilities, not enough money, not enough support. Sorry, Prabhupada came with 40 rupees in his pocket. Yes, I'd like to serve, but I can't relate to this culture. I can't relate to these people. It's too different. Sorry, Prabhupada came to the Lower East Side from aristocratic Bengali Vaishnav culture, and he connected. So then you begin thinking, okay, running out of excuses here. Maybe. So, yes, even the Pandavas had to suffer. Why? To show that that's the nature of the world. But the pure devotees seemingly go through that struggle, not just to show us that it's the nature of the world, but to show us how to respond with grace. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada never became frustrated, he never became fatigued, he never became negative, he never doubted, he just kept going. And so it teaches us that yes, this is the proper way to respond. Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions? Comments?
One question. So, Maharaj, quite often when we do some seva, and if we've been doing it for some time, maybe we take pleasure in doing that seva. So, how do we understand if we're doing it for our own sense gratification or actually pleasing Krishna? 99%
of the time we can accept that I'm doing it for sense gratification. most of the time we are doing it because there's some element of I like it, it makes me feel good. But even in that, we're becoming purified. Even when we serve and there's a material motivation, because it's devotional service, gradually we become purified. But what an advanced devotee or a devotee who wants to advance, eventually what they'll do is, instead of picking the services that they like, they will come forward and they will come in front of Krishna, in front of the Vaishnavas, and they will say, what service do you want me to do? See, the Sanskrit word for a servant is kinkara. Very interesting word. Kara means to do, and kim means what? So the Sanskrit word for a servant etymologically is, what do you want me to do? In other words, a servant is not someone who comes forward and says, this is what I'm going to do. Is that okay? A servant is someone who comes forward and says, what do you want me to do? And so if eventually we want to advance more, then what we'll start doing is not just the services that we like, not just the services which give us a sense of contribution and a sense of self-worth, but we'll start doing the services that are needed, the services that Krishna asks us to do. And although it's hard, we'll actually feel much more transcendental happiness from that. Because when you serve with selflessness, when you serve with no motivation, when you serve not considering your own gain, then in that kind of service, you actually experience true spiritual happiness. So yeah. So yes, if you're doing a service and you enjoy it, by all means continue on. But try to then do some other services in your life which are just not of your choice, but which you do because there's a need. And then we go deeper. Is that okay?
I've got a question.
Yes.
You touched on balance. So, like how we're doing so many different responsibilities. Sometimes there's one thing in your life, responsibility, that like takes over, and you're so deep into it, and you've got so many responsibilities, and you can't get out of it. So how do you elevate or come out of that?
You're not talking about marriage, are you?
How do you
yeah.
free from that so you can make time for the real thing, which is spiritual development?
The first thing is that duty, you can try and infuse more and more Krishna consciousness into it. Don't just be a mother, but be a spiritual mother. Don't just be a wife, be a spiritual wife. Don't just be a worker, be a spiritual worker. In other words, try to bring more and more spirituality into your dharma. And if you're expert, if you're attentive, then you'll find ways and means to do that. So that's the first thing I would say, is try to bring more spirituality into that responsibility. The second thing I would say is that outside of your dharma, you have a certain amount of time, free time, something you have to serve Krishna. There's a mystical truth of Krishna consciousness that when you utilize time, then time expands. If your life is like this and you have this much time to serve Krishna, if you actually utilize this time to serve Krishna and you don't waste it, you don't procrastinate, you don't unnecessarily divert and distract yourself in this time, and you actually use it, you'll actually find that when time is utilized, time expands. Because Krishna says, Kalosmi, I am time. But why will Krishna give you more of something that he knows you're already misusing? So therefore, when we utilize time, then time expands. So if we have a small amount of time, no problem. The beauty of Krishna is that he doesn't see what you're giving. He sees what you're holding back. So, Krishna, for you. Okay. I want to know what's back there. No, you don't want to know about that. All of this is for you. No, but what's back there? You say, Krishna, for you. For you. Is there anything back there? Check. Yeah. For you. Then Krishna's heart is touched. Because you gave everything. So whatever you have, like I said, in this world there's no big devotee and no small devotee. The big devotee is the one who's giving whatever they have. You're a mother, you have so many duties, you have young children, it takes time. I could never do it. You're doing it. But now, just make sure that in whatever time you do have, you're giving it to Krishna. And just watch how more time comes about. So, yeah, it's being a mother. I was just at Brahmanda Ghat in Vrindavan, in Gokul. Brahmanda Ghat is where Krishna ate dirt one day. And Mother Yashoda, they all complained. And Mother Yashoda told Krishna, okay, open your mouth. And then when Krishna opened his mouth, then she saw all the universes. And so Mother Yashoda saw all the universes in Krishna's mouth. She even saw herself in Krishna's mouth. And her mind was blown. But in the very next moment, she was overcome by so much motherly love that she was just like, oh, that's just Krishna. He's my boy. Forget all of that. He's my boy. And so the acharyas commentate that this is the power of motherly love. It's such a powerful, it's very transcendental. So don't underestimate your role as a mother. It's very interesting. I often tell people every single relationship in my life changed. With my brother, with my friends, even with my guru. But there's only one relationship in my life which to this day has still not changed. And that's the relationship with my mom. It doesn't matter if you're a Swami. When you come in front of your mom, you're just a kid. I'm like, Mom, I'm a Swami. What? It's a very transcendental relationship. So don't underestimate that. It's a beautiful thing. But now bring more spirituality into it. And then serve in whatever time you have. Years go by, don't waste any time, and you'll make a lot of advancement. Because nobody's big and nobody's small. It's not that the Swami traveling all over the world is more advanced than the mother who's taking care of their child. Because at the end of the day, Krishna is just seeing that you're trying your best. So, people think we do a lot, but then if we waste our time, if we don't fully engage it in Krishna's service, we've given up so many things. Now we've got all our time. We have to use it for Krishna. Otherwise, what's the meaning? So nobody's big, nobody's small. Just do the best you can. Okay. Any last comments, questions?
I just have one question. When we're doing service, there are periods when we are enthused by whatever, if we travel somewhere or if we have association of someone, we get enthused by that, or inspired by their motivation, and we start doing a bit more than we thought we could actually do. And then there are periods when we don't have that inspiration, or don't have that association, or don't have that opportunity. The level of our enthusiastic service drops. So those, I think that everyone goes through that at some point, but it's just, is there anything we should be doing as devotees to keep that up, to keep that to a certain level which is sustainable and manageable, and then have those jumps whenever we can, rather than the drops, rather try to avoid the drops somehow?
Are you inspired every day as a mother? Every day? Inspired?
Certainly not.
Are you inspired every day to go to work? Are you inspired every day to wake up for Mangalarti? No, no, no. Sometimes we ask questions, how do we stay inspired? How do we stay inspired? When in so many other aspects of our life we're not inspired, but we do it because we know. So we already have that capacity to be dedicated and committed when we're not inspired, because we know there's a greater gain. Each one of us have that capacity. Otherwise, how could you have achieved what you achieved in your life? How could you have brought up a child who became such a nice person? How could you have achieved in your career if you didn't know that art? So everyone knows that art. But now we have to realize that Krishna consciousness is just as important, if not more important, than each one of those things. Once I was on book distribution and it was so cold. Anyway, so I went back to the multi-story car park. I went into the Vauxhall Astra. I sat in the driver's seat and I said, just 5 minutes. So I turned the engine on, boom, deep red, blasted the heating. Put the seat back. So I was there in the Astra, just 5 minutes. Anyway, I don't know how long it was. I fell asleep. Anyway, and then at one point, there was a knock on the window. I was like, what? I was like in a deep sleep, I thought I'd been like Kumbhakarna, sleeping for like months or something. So there was this knock on the window. So I looked, I thought, oh my God, it's probably the Sankirtan leader or someone, And look, and there's just some person. So they said, wind it down, wind down. So then I wound down the window, and this person just came to me and he looked and he said, what are you doing here? You got important work to do out there. Honestly, there's just no hello, no nothing, just put the window and he goes, what are you doing here? You got important work to do out there. I was like, who is this person? Like, the messenger of Krishna. Anyway, he had received a... Anyway, he had got a book from another book distributor. So then he said, people need you out there. You got to be out there. You can't be sitting here in the car. It's like, wow, okay, Krishna is giving me a message here. So... Oh, sorry, do we have to move a car? So yes, we do waver in our enthusiasm. So But now let me give another perspective to it. Along with our service, we need to be deeply spiritually absorbed. We need to know who we're serving. We need to remember why we're serving. We need to also be relishing Krishna consciousness. You can't go out on the street and give people a chant and be happy book and look completely miserable. They'll look at you and say, you need this book more than me. Why don't you read it? So we need to also take time to go deep in Krishna consciousness, take time for reading, for chanting, to associate with devotees, experience. And then what will happen is we'll naturally want to serve, because we'll naturally know this is beautiful and it will bring beauty to other people's lives. And so be kind to yourself as well. Sometimes take time. One devotee once said to me, it's good to be absorbed in service, but did you also know it's a service to be absorbed in Krishna? It's good to be absorbed in service, but did you know it's a service to also be absorbed in Krishna? So let us remember Krishna, let us remember why we're doing what we're doing, let us experience the joy of Krishna. And then our service doesn't become a burden, it doesn't become a heavyweight responsibility, but we think it's so beautiful, everyone can benefit. I want to share like that.
I have just one final request. Alga Mataji and Ritesh Prabhu have welcomed you.
Oh yes, I didn't say anything about the Bhagavatam.
Today. So perhaps you can say just a few words.
Yeah, today we talked about service, and of all the services that Srila Prabhupada offered to the world, this was a service which was perhaps most important to him. From the very first day of his mission to the very final day, Srila Prabhupada was translating Bhagavatam. The very first thing that Srila Prabhupada would do at the beginning of every single day of devotional service was to translate Srimad Bhagavatam. And the very first thing that Srila Prabhupada was looking for before feeling that he should come to the Western world was that he wanted to translate at least the first canto of the Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada, he once said, the best of me is in my books. And so as we read Srimad Bhagavatam, as we understand everything that's contained within these books, we come face to face with Krishna, and we also come face to face with Srila Prabhupada. And therefore to bring Bhagavatam in the home means to bring in the home the opportunity to closely associate with Krishna and his pure devotees. So yes, I'm glad that all the plastic wrappers are off the books. Sometimes I go to,
That was
I grew
this
up.
morning.
Oh, okay. I grew up in a Gujarati house, so I don't know how many of you know, but in Gujarati houses, everything is wrapped in plastic. The remote control is in plastic. The sofas even sometimes are in plastic. One time I came to one home, the sofas were in plastic. I said, wow, you got some new sofas. We had these for 4 years. I said, why is the plastic still on it? I said, we don't want to get any stains on it. No stains. So sometimes we go to the houses and the plastic is still on the books. So I remember my childhood, and I'm like, it's okay to take the plastic off. So now the plastic is off. Every day, touch the Bhagavatam. Okay? Every day you have to touch the Bhagavatam. Minimum. Touch. Then, even better, is to open. Look at a picture. And then even better is one word, one shloka. Just try to always keep contact with the Bhagavatam. Sanatana Goswami says, the Bhagavatam is my constant companion, my best friend. I was talking yesterday, everything in life will change, but the Bhagavatam walks with you through all those changes. So make the Bhagavatam your best friend, and then you'll never be disappointed in your life. You'll never be frustrated. You'll see joy everywhere, beauty everywhere, Krishna everywhere. So yes, very happy. So nice to see the Bhagavatam here. Wishing you the best. And some parts of the Bhagavatam are hard. There's one chapter in the second canto called Purusha Shukta Confirmed. I read the chapter 4 times. I was like, I still don't know what the Purusha Shukta is, and I have no idea what's being confirmed. It was just like, I read it 4 times. I was like, what? So some of the Bhagavatam, you'll read it and you'll just be like, I have no idea what was just explained there. It's okay. This is like very, very deep, powerful, higher dimensional knowledge. It takes time, it takes patience, and even when you feel like you're not understanding it, know for sure that your heart is transforming. So, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. So thank you all so much for being here, for all you're doing. Thank you for inviting us so warmly. I guess one final thing I'll say is that in December we really try to go out and share these books with as many people as possible. So see what you can do in this month of December to try to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. When you give someone a book, you may be changing their life. Sometimes we can't perceive how it's all happening. But someone just receives a book, and at that moment in their life they're questioning, and everything can change. So whether it's on Saturdays, you can go out into town center, or whether it's your colleagues or your friends, whatever it may be, just try to share these books with others in whatever way you can, whatever way is natural and achievable for you, and magical things will happen. Another day I'll tell you many stories of book distribution. That could be a whole. Hare Krishna. Thank you.